Hello my friends, and welcome back to part two. I think this is looking quite nice, isn't it? Lots of lovely rich greens. Um, Now we're going to start working on reflections. So lots of water, a big expanse of water with some lovely reflections. So this is going to be a bit of fun if you want to learn about reflections. This should help you, at least a little anyway, I hope. So let's crack on, finish this beautiful painting. Again, thank you so much for your support. Please do subscribe. You're missing so much. Lots of different techniques. So I will be right back. Let's crack on and have a bit of fun with this. Right, let's do it. I'm not going to show you my palette because the setup of the cameras is just so awkward with this being such a big canvas. But look, I'll explain to you as I'm going along really, because I'm not even going to put up the reference photograph because it's completely different, okay? We have lots of bright greens in this. The reference photograph is very dull and very sparse. So we can just do this as we're going, okay? Let's just have a bit of fun. Let's go. I'm going to dampen a medium brush. I'm going to start off with a nice light blue up there. So I'm going to take some titanium white with some phthalo blue and a touch of magenta. I already have some on my palette. Now my palette is there since yesterday. All the colours are still there. So I'm just going to pop a little light colour up here, go from side to side, bring it down. And this is all still wet now, by the way, okay? Now, off in the distance, I'm just going to soften that back into the background, okay? So I want a nice sort of distant feeling. I want it to sort of disappear into the background way, way off up there, okay? Just like that. That gives you an air of kind of mystery and all that kind of stuff, you know? It just adds a little something to it. Let's just pop this in here now. And I'm going to kind of just disturb this side over here, okay? I just want to make it a little bit more in and out. You see what I mean? Because it looks very straight at the moment. Up there even, we can kind of soften that back into the tree just a touch. So we don't have such a harsh kind of a line. And later on, I will kind of cut some of the trees back into the water. But yeah, that's okay. I'm happy with that. Now, as it comes down, should I move to a larger brush? I'm not sure. I think I'll move to a larger brush. Now I did put a tiny bit of linseed oil around here and there, okay, just to dampen the surface slightly. I'm going to get my big brush and I'm going to start making this a little more on the grey side, okay? So I'm taking some lamp black, some cerulean blue, a touch of magenta, and I just want to sort of make it a kind of a dull bluey grey, because you have to remember, whatever colour your sky is, the reflections will be slightly darker, okay? Always with painting, the painting landscapes especially, the reflection colour will always be darker than what it's reflecting. So for example, these trees are going to be much darker in the reflection. Understand what I mean? That's a kind of a general rule of thumb with painting in general. So you'll always make a reflection slightly darker. I'm going to take some burnt umber into that and a touch of black, okay? I want to get a kind of, the water is a kind of a muddy grey colour, all right? That's the more natural colour of water when it's you know, when you're taking a photograph of water. It generally tends to be kind of a dark muddy grey colour, doesn't it? So some burnt umber, some black, touch of white, and you could even put a touch of phthalo blue in there as well, just a touch, just to give it that impression of a kind of a sort of a bluey grey sort of colour, okay? And this is just a base, okay? Don't think this is the final colour. I'm just taking a bit of white. I'm going to just pop a little bit of white into the colour, just directly onto my brush and go right over top of that. Just to lighten it here and there. Maybe a touch of white and Naples yellow as well. So you can see now how kind of thin this coat is. It's a very, very thin coat. I like to work with thin coats early on. Excuse me. And then I work up thicker layers. So my next thick layer will then kind of stick to this much, much nicer. A little bit of phthalo blue and black. Now a touch of thinners again. Touch of thinners, I get some titanium white, some black, some phthalo blue. And just to kind of show it's reflecting a blue sky. I'm going to pop that colour across there. See, nice and thin. You can even go up and down, side to side, look, all of that. Just soften it right through. It's just, I just want to get a nice base colour to work on, okay? You could just put a grey over all of this, if you wished. A nice grey. It's completely up to yourself. Now I'm taking phthalo blue, a touch of black, perhaps a touch of red as well in there. Let's go slightly warmer. And I'm going right over to this corner over here as well. It's such a large canvas, isn't it? You know, it's difficult to kind of record on a very, very large canvas like this sometimes, because I have my camcorder, or my phone rather, I have my phone set to a very kind of a wide angle so you can see everything, because otherwise I would have to keep zooming in and out of different parts as I go along. And that just makes it very complicated for editing and all that kind of stuff. So I have the phone set on a very wide angle so you can see everything. I hope that's okay. I hope you can see it. Now, almost done. We have this nice base colour pretty much in. We're there. As it comes down, I'm going to darken it. Okay? I'm going to take some magenta, some phthalo blue, a little black. I'm going to darken it as it comes towards us here. Now there's a lot of blue on my brush. I just need to get rid of that. Let me take a bit more magenta. I think a bit more black into that, just to get rid of that bit of phthalo blue that's on my brush. There's a big chunk of phthalo blue kind of hidden inside my brush, and it's coming out. There, it's better. I'll just go along with that. Go nice and dark towards the front. And look, we're adding some colour as well anyway. A little bit of burnt umber. And I'm just picking up colours now and just putting them sort of directly on the canvas. I'm not mixing too much on my palette, okay? Because you want to give the impression of distance, so you would generally put a dark colour down the very, very bottom down here. Let me try that now. I get another bit of that, a bit of black, a bit of phthalo blue, touch of magenta. Softening that right through. And it's time for reflections. Now this is the part that a lot of people are scared of. People get nervous when they start painting reflections on trees. The best thing to do is just go for it, okay? Just grab your brush and go for it. I'm going to put some cadmium yellow on my palette now, plenty of it, because I will need a lot. So I think I'll plan ahead and put plenty on there. So cadmium yellow, black, blue, and some burnt umber, which I have. So that's it. I get a small brush. Just give that a clean. I have some light blue in my brush, so I give that a quick clean there. And from here on, I'm going to be using dry brushes, okay? No thinners, because we have a nice thin layer of wet paint already. So I think just crack on, I suppose. Just crack on. I'll start with, I think, all of these. I might put a suggestion of this little tower in first. I'm just going to take a little bit of a soft pinky grey, and I'm going to just, let me take a look at that now. Just pop that in there. Okay. You don't have to go putting lights and darks and all that kind of stuff into it. Okay, because we're going to be softening all of this together anyway later on. I will just put a suggestion of that darker colour on the side, perhaps just a little flick down. You see, just like that. Now, it might not be straight, but we can straighten all of this with our soft brush when we're softening colours in. And then it's a case of going into some nice rich greens. So I'm going to take some black, I'm going to get some cadmium yellow. So nice thick paint, okay? Don't be shy with your paint now in this. Let's get some nice rich green, nice rich dark green. And I'm simply going to just pull these greens down like that. Soften them away off into the distance. And the idea behind this is to try and kind of replicate the angle of these trees. So you're trying to come down and come out further and further and further, okay? And also the shapes. So for example, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to get some paint here now again, some cadmium yellow, burnt umber perhaps, and you can see we have a nice kind of a shape on this one here. So I'm going to kind of come down and around like that. Okay, then we have another one next to that. Now you may think this is quite bright at the moment, not dark enough. Let's darken it down, come on. Let's get some black, some cadmium yellow, and some phaylo blue. And no, go nice and dark. Let's go nice and dark with these. And this is, again, now this is just kind of the early on stages of the painting. I will be adding some lights into these as well. So I suppose just don't be afraid. Just really just grab your brush and go for it. Okay, look, I'm going to make mistakes. And look, I can fix those mistakes. All right. Just try not to concentrate too much on getting the colors exact. You see, just pulling it down gently like that. Getting there. We're getting there slowly. I'm going to start putting some nice rich dark colors on here now. So let's take some turpentine, get some black, some phthalo blue, and some cadmium yellow. Lots and lots of cadmium yellow. I have a very rich dark color now. It's almost a blacky kind of a green that I have. I'm going to take a little burnt umber as well, just to warm it slightly. This will probably look completely almost like a black to you on screen, but it's a very dark, muddy green color. A bit more burnt umber in that, I think, just to warm it slightly. Right down like that with these. And it's a little tricky now for me because I'm painting at an angle, okay? So I'm painting in this direction. I'm not looking directly at the canvas, because if I try to do that, my head will be in shot and you won't see anything. So it's difficult for me to imagine a straight line coming down when I'm not sitting in front of the canvas, okay? So I do apologize if it's not completely vertical, my lines. They need to be nice and vertical coming down. So let's just keep going like this. And we have a big one that comes up like that. Really down into the bottom of the canvas. And I'm simply just popping in a lot of dark color in vertical brush strokes, okay? Already you can almost kind of see the reflection starting to come to life, just because we've done up and down strokes. If you did left to right like this, it just wouldn't look like a reflection, a natural reflection. If you go out into, if you go by a river or whatever, you look at the reflection, you will see they always tend to come down like this, don't they? Always. Now I'm going to just start adding a little warmer colour here and there, so kind of slightly richer colours here and there. Some richer greens. You could even pick up lots of cadmium yellow. Look at that, loads of thick paint on your brush. And just start popping some in here and there, just to suggest some brights. You can see where we have some of those brighter colours. So just simply pop some yellow in there, soften it through. I'll take some cadmium yellow and burnt sienna. We have some nice warm colours as well. You see that little touch of warmth showing through here and there, a little bit up there as well. So this is how I just approach reflections. Just keep it simple. Where you see a bright, pop in a little bright. Where you see a dark, pop in a little dark. You know? Don't be too worried about making it look absolutely perfect, because a painting should not look exactly like what you're painting. Okay? It's a painting after all. And the beauty of a painting is that it's an impression of what you see. And it doesn't matter if it's not exactly the same. Okay? It really doesn't. Just as long as you are happy with the outcome, it's all that matters. That's the important thing. You're the one painting it, okay? You're the one who sees what you can see. Just have a bit of fun. Now I'm just going to sit back for a moment and take a quick look at that. Yeah, I'll start adding some darks now, because as I was saying, the reflection will always be darker, slightly darker than what you're reflecting. So I need to just pop a few dark greens here and there. I'm just going to pop a few in there. And I'm just using thick paint, nothing else, no thinners, nothing, just lots of thick paint. Bit of dark in there, you see. Grab a little phaylo blue as well. So again, as I was saying, just wherever you see dark shades, pop a little dark colour in there. It doesn't have to be exactly the same colour. Just as long as it's a dark shade of a green or brown, whatever, then that's fine. Right, now I'm just looking, seeing how we're doing. I think the next part of this will be, we could probably start adding some brights into this, couldn't we? Now we could use a palette knife for this, or we could use a brush. It's up to ourselves really. I think I might try the palette knife just for some of these areas. Okay, let's try it. I'm going to grab some cadmium yellow, some naples yellow, and a little white. I'm not going to go too bright with these. Maybe a hint of sienna, just a warm, kind of an olive green perhaps. I think let's just try, and very gently, you see, very gently just scrape some dabs of paint down here and there. Wherever you see some bright shades, okay? I'm holding my knife very flat on the canvas. A couple more up here. Drag it down, look. So already you can start to pick up some of those colours. And that's all I'm going to do. Next, what I'm going to do is take my soft fan brush, yeah, and I'm going to simply pull those down. So I'm going to soften these now back down into the water. You see, just letting them all fade away. And that gives quite a nice effect, doesn't it? So you can see what I mean by pulling everything down at an angle. Um, Reflections do kind of give this impression when you're looking at them in a river or a lake or whatever. They do kind of tend to kind of drag downwards, don't they? Now let me just have a look at this. See, that's quite nice. I'm happy with that. So the next thing I'm going to do with this is, I think I will maybe add a little detail here and there. Not in the trees, but in the water itself. So I'm going to take some phthalo blue with white. Okay, tiny touch phthalo blue with white. Probably mostly white in this. And with a small pointy brush, look, just going to go along and just add one or two little ripples here and there, just by the river bank, because it's just really to separate the bank from the reflections. All right, it's because otherwise they'll just sort of merge together. It's a good idea just to have a little touch of separation here and there. You could put a little couple of lines across here and there, you see, just to give the impression of little ripples and light catching the water ever so slightly. And you could even use your palette knife for this now as well. That would be perfectly fine. I think just a couple, just to add a little mystery. And well, not mystery, but it's just bring reflections to life. And you know the way you'll always have these little dots in the water. They sort of, it's little tiny points of light that are catching the water. Just a couple here and there. And again, look, you don't have to go absolutely crazy with this. I'm going to try a little bit with the palette knife, because that gives you a very sort of rough effect as well, using a palette knife like this. I suppose I better get a couple just over on this side as well. And just one or two out into the open as well. Again, I don't want to go absolutely crazy with all of this. So I'll stop at that, and then I'm just simply going to soften across some of those. Just to soften them out, just to take the roughness off of them. And that's part one on that side finished. Okay, you could go in and add some more to the bank if you want, but I kind of like the slightly faded look in there. That's nice. I think I'm going to leave it. The trouble with something like this is if you go at it and you go at it constantly, you may end up making it worse, and you may be just kicking yourself afterwards. Let's go over and do this side. I'm going back to my medium brush. We have a lovely tree there. I want to just pick that out again just a little bit, okay, and here as well. And then I'm going to put in that reflection using this dark color. It's going to be kind of down here somewhere, isn't it? Like that. And it's the very same process, okay? Very, very same. On both sides, let's just dampen our brushes slightly. Go right in there, take some cadmium yellow. Lots of cadmium yellow, a little black, little phthalo blue. Again, let's get a nice rich dark green. Let's go in here and just start pulling some dark greens down, because I want to start with the darker colours first. All right. I need a bit more yellow, don't I? And perhaps a touch of sienna just to warm it slightly. I don't want to go too cold with any of this. And on this side, there's no particular, how would I say it? No particular types of colours in this. It's just a big mass of green in the reflection. We can pop in the buildings as well later on, but it's really just sort of a mass of green first, and then we'll just start putting in some lights, highlights and all that kind of stuff over the top. So let's just keep going with this. You could use a big brush if you like as well. I just find the smaller brushes sometimes it gives you a little more control for this type of thing rather than just getting a big brush and doing it all in one brush stroke, because you can see the way we have, see the way the brushes kind of, you can see the brush strokes. I think it gives a more natural feeling rather than having just one thick brush stroke all the way down like that. So I think for this, a smaller brush is probably better in terms of giving us a more natural feeling of reflections. You see what I mean? Okay, I'm going to go nice and dark again. Black, phthalo blue, and burnt umber. That'll give us a nice rich dark colour. And it's mixing into the water as well, so it's fine. You see, we're kind of getting different colours, lights and darks going through. And that's a good thing. Now, always by the riverbank, it does get slightly darker, right in there by the bank. So I'm going to go with nice dark colour, a bit of burnt umber and a bit of black. Soften that down. Now I'll just stop at that. Maybe I'll come down here a bit further with some dark. We could actually, you know, if you wanted to, you could use the palette knife to create all of the highlights as well. You know, you could. The very same way as we did here. You could, if you wanted to, do it like that. Okay, should we try it? I think it might be worth a try, you know. I think it might be. I think I'll grab a palette knife and try this. Now, before I continue, let me make sure that you can see that side of the canvas. You can see it. I'm always worried that you don't see something, you miss something important. So I try to make sure you can see everything on my canvas. Now, look, I've cadmium yellow. It's a bit of a greeny, yellowy colour, okay, that just mixed in. I took some on my palette knife, and I'm just simply going to drag where I can see some bright colours. Just going to drag that down here and there. And yeah, that's a nice effect, isn't it? Seems to be working okay. Again, go back into some cadmium yellow. We have a nice bit here. You see some nice highlights up there. I'm just catching the canvas wherever I can see some highlights on those trees, really. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to take some Naples yellow with cadmium yellow on my palette knife. And this is just really, it's a quick way of creating reflections, isn't it? I have a little bit of red in there as well. I'm going to pop a tiny suggestion of some red just around there, look. Just like that. And we also have some burnt umber, a lot of burnt umber around here. So I'm just going to pop some of that in there as well. And I'll take a little black, pop a little black in there. Again, it's just wherever I can see darks and lights, I'm just popping it in. So I put some Naples yellow on my palette knife for here, look, Naples yellow. And a little bit of that. Should I put a reflection of the buildings? Should I perhaps put a tiny suggestion of the buildings popping through the water here and there? I'm not entirely sure, but let's try it. Let's come down to around here and just pop a little suggestion of them. I'm going to angle my knife because you see the way these are going at an angle like this. I'm going to angle my knife like that. And let's see what we can do. Again, it's just a very loose suggestion. That's all it is. I'm not going to try and get these exactly perfect. See, I'm just going to drag them down. And I could put in a tiny suggestion of a few windows here and there, just to add to the effect. But most of these will disappear in the reflection when we soften it anyway. So not to worry, okay? Not to worry. Let's take some cadmium yellow and just pop a little cadmium yellow through there just to soften it into the trees above. And perhaps a tiny bit of a blue colour, just to simulate, just to give the impression rather of those roofs. Okay, I'm just going to take a bit of dark blue and just pop a little dark blue here and there. I'll take my fan brush and let's soften. Pull all of these down, soften them right out into that water. Go right through your reflections, go through everything, pull your brush right through everything, your buildings, the whole lot, everything. Soften them all down. That creates a nice reflection, doesn't it? Now, let me stop, stand back, and have a look. Now, I'm happy with that. I don't feel the need to keep adding loads and loads of colour into these. I'm going to soften across just to create the effect of some ripples popping across the water here and there. You see that? The way I just kind of grab some of the darks and pull them across. It gives a lovely effect, I think. Just very gently. And finally, I just need to go in there by the river bank and again just separate the bank from the trees a little bit. I'll take a little touch of white on my palette knife and I'm just going to go in here and just pop a little white here and there. Only a touch. It just helps give the illusion of reflections, okay? You see, just pop a little bit of white through the reflections with your palette knife. Just drag it across here and there. Just like what we did over there, okay? Just a tiny, tiny amount. It just pushes, I find what this does is it pushes the reflections back into the water for some reason. It seems to work. Then I'll take a small pointy brush again, take a little bit of white, a couple of tiny dots here and there, just to add a little touch. I suppose it's just to add a little touch of sparkle to the water, isn't it? It just gives you a tiny, tiny bit of a sparkle. These few tiny little specks, they really do They sort of, I don't know, they just add a little something to it, don't they? They bring the painting to life. And I won't overdo this. I don't think I should overdo this. I'll just soften those across now very gently. I'm hardly even touching my canvas now, really, at this stage. And my friends, look, do we need to continue on with this? I don't think we do. I'm fairly happy with the reflections. Could maybe add a bit of brightness here and there, but I feel if I go at this now, I might just spoil the painting for what it is. I think it's just, it shows some nice reflections off in the distance. I maybe just add a tiny, tiny amount of a bright colour, maybe a very, very light bluey white colour off in the distance, just to give a little bit of roughness to the water, very gently scraping it across, look, very gently as it comes down, softening it back in with the knife itself, okay, just to give it, I suppose, a little bit of a glitter, a bit of a sparkle off in the distance. That's not too bad, is it? I won't come too far down with this. It's just for the distant, just to add a bit of detail. It was a bit of detail, but yeah, giving you a little bit of roughness just there in the distance. You see that? And I'm quite happy with that, my friends. I'm going to call it finished. I would normally put a bird or something like that in, but I don't think I need to do that. Could always put like a boat or something like that, maybe a swan. But I'll leave it for now, and I'll decide then later what I'm going to do. Okay, so that's it. That didn't take very long now, did it? Nice, simple reflections. And my friends, let me turn the camera and just say to you, thank you so much for joining me. My next step is to leave this dry for a few days, and I'm going to put it in my lovely frame that I made, a floating frame, and I'll show you what it looks like. I might even try and put it in there now as it's wet and just take a quick photograph just to show you what it looks like with the frame. But I'm very happy with that now. It's nice. Simple reflections, and just to show you that even though you have a very big canvas, you don't need to go into huge amounts of detail. Okay, you can just keep it simple. Just even though it's a big canvas, you can still keep it simple and just have a nice impression of a river with some reflections. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again very, very soon. Big shout out to a friend of mine in Limerick, Irish Terminator, sends me messages all the time. A big hello from me down here in Cork City, and also Dave Welch. Thank you for your comments, and please do send me some of your photographs. If you have any photographs that you would like me to take a look at, possibly tutorials, please do just send them. My email is stephenconway12@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you and chat. I'm going to wait to get a coffee. I'm going to have a nice coffee now and stand back, take a look at this, and admire it. Admire the painting. God bless and happy painting.